Imagine a world so dark that reading by candlelight was just reading. No cozy glow, no romantic flicker, just eye strain and the faint scent of singed mustache hair. Enter the myth. Thomas Edison, lone wolf inventor, conjuring the light bulb with little more than sheer willpower, sleepless nights, and a caffeine habit that could keep a diner open 24/7. Picture him hunched over his workbench muttering "Eureka!" every 10 minutes while his fingertips smoldered from inventing from scratch. Literally. Now, flip the switch on reality. Edison wasn't the first to brighten our lives. He just made things brighter and way more reliable. Decades before Edison's light bulb moment, and yes, that was totally a literal phrase back then, folks like Humphrey Davy were electrifying filaments, and Joseph Swan was lighting up parlors across the pond. If Edison's achievement was inventing, mine is inventing a sandwich from a loaf that's already sliced. So what did Edison actually do? He took those flickering, short-lived bulbs of yore and cranked up the wattage. A longer-lasting filament here, a practical vacuum there. Voila! Suddenly, bulbs didn't burn out faster than you could say patent pending. Speaking of which, the great light bulb patent wars could have powered an entire season of daytime soap operas. Stay tuned next week for As the Filament Turns. And let's not forget Menlo Park, Edison's inventor playground and original startup incubator. The real bright idea wasn't solo stardom, it was collaboration. The result? Ordinary households could finally flip a switch, banish the tyranny of sunset, and settle bedtime arguments under artificial light. So next time you have a light bulb moment, tip your hat to Edison, not for the idea itself, but for making sure that bulb burns longer than your attention span. Moving from myths about inventors, another legendary tale involves Newton and the discovery of gravity. If you think Newton invented gravity thanks to a rogue apple, you might as well credit bananas for discovering friction. Picture this. Poor Isaac dozing beneath a leafy tree when, bam, an apple bonks him on the head. And just like that, revelation strikes. It's so neat and tidy, you'd expect Newton to be a cartoon character whose biggest threat is flying produce. But let's peel back the myth. There's no first-hand evidence from Newton's time, or from Newton himself, that an apple actually hit him. The original story only mentions an apple sighting, not an unexpected cranial assault. Newton watched apples fall and wondered why they dropped straight to the ground. But his breakthrough didn't come from bruised egos or fruit stains. Instead of roaming about with a colander helmet to avoid gravity-related injuries, Newton spent years carefully observing and mathematically unraveling nature's mysteries, using calculus, not concussion, to crack the code. Here's the unvarnished core. Gravity existed well before Newton, and folks had long noticed things fall, including presumably the occasional picnic-tearing apple mishap. Newton's real genius? He turned those falling apples into equations that stuck. The apple to the head story? That juicy anecdote ripened decades later, nurtured by Voltaire and Newton's fans hungry for a good tale. After all, he worked tirelessly for years, just doesn't have the same zing. So next time you zone out under a tree, remember, you're not just being lazy. You might be on the brink of revolutionizing physics. And if a pineapple had fallen instead, we'd probably be commemorating Newton's laws of emergency room visits. Genius doesn't always fall from above. Usually it arrives after years of looking up and asking, why? Just as Newton's story has been romanticized, so too has the narrative surrounding Marconi and radio communication. Picture Marconi alone in a shadowy Italian workshop shouting heroically into coils of wire as Beethoven roars in the background. Suddenly, a bulb flickers on, and voila! Radio is born, forged from pure Italian bravado and a lucky shot in the dark. Cue the dramatic legend. Reality check. If Marconi invented the radio single-handedly, then I invented the internet every time my Wi-Fi goes out and I reboot the router. Radio's birth certificate reads like a group birthday card passed around the office. First on the guest list, James Clerk Maxwell, who scribbled the electromagnetic wave playbook decades before Marconi was even an idea. Then Heinrich Hertz, who went full Mythbusters and proved radio waves weren't just science fiction. Meanwhile, Nikola Tesla was already tossing wireless energy around like confetti and locked in legal cage matches with Marconi over who actually invented what, when, and with how many volts. Truth is, Marconi wasn't a lone genius. He was a communications tycoon in training, sharp with business, relentless in self-promotion, and an expert at stirring static with rival inventors. While others fiddled with wires and sparks, Marconi was snapping up patents faster than a caffeine-fueled lawyer. Patents flew, lawsuits raged, and the radio's origin story turned into less of a solo symphony and more of a cross-continental jam session, with legal fees providing the backup vocals. In 1943, the U.S. Supreme Court posthumously tipped its hat to Tesla for some key radio tech, but Marconi's name still gets top billing. Why does the myth of the lone Marconi survive? Simple. The Collaborative Committee of Radio History just doesn't have the same ring to it. Transitioning from Marconi's contributions to communication, Leonardo da Vinci is often credited with pioneering flight through his helicopter designs. Picture Leonardo da Vinci soaring over Renaissance Florence in a whirly-bird. Now that's an entrance! History buffs and aviation geeks alike have kept alive the charming myth that Leonardo didn't just design, but built and flew the world's first helicopter. The mental image of Da Vinci zipping across the Ponte Vecchio, Silk Cape billowing in the Tuscan breeze, is undeniably cinematic. But let's slam the brakes before this blockbuster takes off. Here's what really went down. Leonardo sketched something jaw-dropping called the aerial screw in his notebooks. Picture less sky racer and more giant pizza spinner. The concept? Generate lift by spinning a corkscrew-shaped frame made of reed, linen, and wire, powered by 4 folks huffing and puffing underneath. Florence probably wasn't ready for artisanal flight delays courtesy of Da Vinci Airlines. Now for the science without the sparkle, there's zero evidence Leonardo's aerial screw was ever actually built, let alone flown. No secret test flights in back alleys, not so much as an oops crash recorded in his voluminous diaries. Physics at the time was more pipe dream than formula. His prototype was ambitious, but as airworthy as a decorative lampshade. If flying means daydreaming and doodling, then sure, Da Vinci was Florence's premier frequent flyer. Otherwise, not so much. If his invention had really worked, maybe Mona Lisa's smile would finally have a punchline. So why does this myth keep taking off despite its turbulent reality? Let's taxi down history's runway and see how Leonardo's brilliant sketches ballooned from paper to legend. After all, every myth needs a little lift and a whole lot of imagination. Shifting from early flight inventions, Nikola Tesla is famously associated with electrifying myths about energy and weaponry. Did Nikola Tesla plan to light up your home for free and zap your enemies for a modest surcharge? Oh, to live in a world where electricity flows as freely as Wi-Fi and death rays sit beside toaster ovens at Best Buy. Rumors buzz as wildly as Tesla's famously electrified hair. He supposedly dreamed of beaming free energy through the air, powering the planet without an extension cord or monthly bill in sight. Over a century later, conspiracy theorists and YouTube commenters still shout, "Where's my free juice, Nikola?" Well, partly true. Tesla did aim for wireless energy with his ambitious Wardenclyffe Tower on Long Island. He wanted to send power across continents, a sort of 1900s internet for electricity. But the only thing he managed to illuminate was investor skepticism. Spoiler! No city ever mysteriously glowed thanks to secret Tesla tech. Had he actually handed out free electricity, utility companies would have hunted him down faster than any death ray could. Speaking of death rays, Tesla stoked headlines by announcing his Teleforce beam, promising impenetrable borders and, depending on your view, either world peace or an excellent Bond villain origin story. But Tesla's infamous death ray was more death myth than laser doom weapon. The only thing he truly electrified for free. His own wild hairdos. In the end, neither global wireless freebies nor supervillain weaponry materialized, though Tesla's press conferences did routinely shock reporters into stunned admiration. Today, we pay our electric bills, alas, no lasers included, and save death rays for Saturday morning cartoons. Tesla's real legacy? Alternating current, reliable power grids, and the Tesla coil. Inventions that genuinely changed the world, with a lot less drama than the death ray his fans fantasized about. While Tesla's legacy is surrounded by electricity myths, Samuel Morse's story similarly involves misconceptions about the invention of Morse code. Picture Samuel Morse springing out of bed, shouting, "Dots! Dashes! Eureka!" A telegraphic Archimedes minus the bathwater, but with a looming deadline. Popular legend casts Morse as a one-man lightning bolt, allegedly conjuring Morse code in a caffeine-fueled all-nighter, quill in one hand, destiny in the other. Ah, the lone genius myth. So neat, so satisfying, and so completely inaccurate. Here's the real signal. Morse's flash of inspiration was less eureka and more committee meeting. His first attempt was less elegant code and more avant-garde percussion. Think cacophonous tap dancing rather than clear communication. Enter Alfred Vail, assistant extraordinaire, who transformed Morse's clumsy chorus into the dot and dash ballet we know today. Vail wasn't just the guy fetching coffee and cables. He engineered much of the efficiency, even analyzing newspaper letter frequency to assign shorter codes to common letters. If Morse really had invented it all solo, he'd probably have thrown in a few emojis for good measure. The invention wasn't a lightning bolt. It was a slow current. Trial, error, team tweaks, and the art of making sure messages didn't sound like a tap-dancing woodpecker. While Morse busied himself perfecting the telegraph hardware, his collaborators, thumbs poised and brains engaged, optimized the code. History loves a hero, so it gives us the tidy tale of Samuel Morse, code conjurer. In truth, Morse code was a team sport, a relay race, not a sprint. So next time you tap out SOS, remember, even Morse needed backup to send the right signals. From communication to science, Marie Curie's story about radiation exposure has also been embellished over time. Did Marie Curie really glow in the dark, or is that just a radiant rumor cooked up by science fans with a flair for the dramatic? Let's be honest. If Curie had strolled through 1904 Paris dazzling like a human glow stick, the nightlife scene would have been a whole new shade of fabulous. Lab coat by day, disco ball by night. We can dream. Here's the beaker bottom truth. Yes, Marie Curie's daily, just another flask of radium routine bathed her in enough radiation to make a superhero jealous. Unsurprisingly, whispers spread that she was part science experiment, part night light. After all, her notebooks remain too radioactive to handle, library finds nightmare, anyone, and she often suffered burns from her groundbreaking work. But did Curie herself emit a ghostly blue-green glow? Pure science fiction. The real glow comes from radium itself, which casts a bluish shimmer that mesmerized early atomic enthusiasts and probably gave a few janitors heart attacks. It was her lab supplies, not her skeleton, lighting up like a radioactive rave. If Curie stepped into a dark room, you'd see nothing, unless she was hauling her notebook, which you definitely shouldn't touch without a hazmat suit. Curie, the world's first double Nobel laureate, paved the way for modern radiation safety, largely because her era's protocols boiled down to "don't lick the radium." We owe her brilliance, just not a literal glow, for our current understanding and precautions. So, next time you imagine Curie blazing through the night, remember, she pioneered radioactivity, not the world's first glowworm impersonation. Lastly, transitioning from pioneering scientists, Charles Babbage's role in early computing is often misunderstood, especially regarding his use of binary code. Imagine a world where laptops weighed as much as a horse-drawn carriage. Welcome to Charles Babbage's era, where Wi-Fi meant waving a fan at your neighbor and tech startups ran on pure steam. Today, most picture Babbage as the bewhiskered granddad of computing, doodling machines ready to run Windows, or at least Pong, on a diet of ones and zeros. This, dear reader, is steampunk fantasy at its finest. Reality, as usual, is less pixel perfect. Babbage didn't invent the digital computer. He masterminded the difference engine and its flashier cousin, the analytical engine. These machines didn't munch on bits. They feasted on gears and cogs. Forget binaries on and off flicker. Babbage's engines were all about decimal dials, like a Victorian abacus suffering an identity crisis and a caffeine overload. Here's the plot twist. Babbage never fully caught the magic of programmable computing. That eureka moment belonged to Ada Lovelace, who peered into the analytical engine's bronze guts and envisioned algorithms doing a graceful minuet. Meanwhile, binary code was still lurking in the shadows, waiting for George Boole's Victorian logic soiree to bring it out. Actual binary wizardry didn't hit the stage until much later. Imagine waiting for a software update, but instead of installing, you hear, "Please add more gears." Babbage wasn't scheming for Minecraft or launching Victorian Fortnite. His dream was simple, error-free math tables. Sadly, his machines never crossed the finish line in his lifetime, meaning no cloud computing, and the only bugs to debug were literal critters trapped between the gears. Debugging involved a wrench and a stiff upper lip rather than Control plus Alt plus Delete. So, next time someone crowns Babbage King of the Silicon Age, remember, he built the clockwork foundation, but the real digital magic took a steamier, twistier path to arrive.